Labor codes are something which is now getting into limelight, and it will be replacing about 28 labor and industrial laws we have it in existence today. And the existing practice of labor code or labor laws are such that it is all completely taking up into the licenses Raj, or where there is a lots of licenses to be obtained, lots of returns to be filed, and many things are there, complexities which creates complexities. The labor laws are the collection of all the laws which control the rights and the restrictions of the workers and their organization. Basically, it is for the workforce, those who go to the factories, they work over there, they come back. That is a 9 to 5 factory job. What we are doing, that is what is majorly controlled in it. And most population, I would say more than 60% of the population are falling into this category only. So it covers the entire set of labor laws. It covers the workers' safety, health, and the working condition, and the industrial relations are also covered in this labor law. They are also called as laws of employment. The main objective of these laws is basically to promote industrial peace. Now, how do you promote industrial peace? For example, if you just without giving any notice, if you declare strike, that if a category of workers are declaring strike without giving any notice, what about the orders which has come in? There is no production. When there is a strike, there happens no production. And when there is no production, how will you fulfill the order which has already been taken? So this is how it happens. So when there is a gap between the management and the workforce, then the industrial piece gets disturbed. And to fill up this gap, we have lots of laws, regulations pertaining to the industrial laws. It could be the Workmen Compensation Act, or it could be Industrial Disputes Act, or whatever it is. It is the laws and other provisions are also available. So this is the first and foremost objective of labor laws, that is to maintain the industrial peace. The next one is about the promotion of labor welfare. Labor welfare, when we say, see, we consider the workplace as the extended family, right? We consider it as an extended family. Those who are in the factories background, if any of your parents are working in the factory, you will get to know that it is considered as an extended workplace, wherein you spend at least 1/4 of your time in the organization. In a day's time, 1/4 of it, minimum 8 hours to 9 hours, are being spent in the factory itself, and that too, which is your productive time, not in the early morning, not in the evenings. Where there is a productive time, that is where you will be spending on in the factories. So where, if you're considering that as a extended family, then it also happens that you're supposed to get treated well, right? That is where the your health, your safety, all those things are being concerned. So that is how the labor laws work. And the labor codes cover the following aspects, that is the industrial relations, the workers safety and healthy, and employment standards. So these are something which will be considered. Now, labor laws are also part of the Constitution of India. Constitution of India is something which grants us the rights, the fundamental rights to us, and confers fundamental duties on us. So this is where the Constitution of India also comes into picture. That is, in article number 14, you have everything contemporized. So why would anybody maintain that? So this is one of the simplest example which I gave. But considering these relevancy or the contemporization of the way of working, the government of India, that is Shri Narendra Modi ji's government, has given us some leverage how the as to how the points or how the methods or the laws can be regularized. And they have clubbed about 29 labor laws are in existence as on today. We have around 29 labor laws. These 29 labor laws have now been grouped into only something called as 4 labor codes. There are about 29 labor laws, and we will be looking into the list a little later. Now, all those have been just covered into 4 labor codes. That is the code of wages, the social security, the code of occupational safety and health and working conditions, and finally the code of industrial relations. So these are some of the 4 codes which are now available, replacing the labor laws. Now, what are all these about codes? The codes, they have been, as I was telling you, go back to your basics, that is in the Contract Act. What does that Contract Act did? It codified the various segregated principles into one structure, right? And that is what even these codes are doing. For example, if I have to give you the definition of worker itself is different in 4 different acts. Okay. Under Workmen Compensation Act, it is different. Under the Welfare Fund, the Bonus Act, it is different, and it is altogether a different one whenever we are talking about that. So what happens here in the labor code is here whatever it has been done, it has now been codified. First one, there was a single registration. Now there was a single license. Earlier, there were multiple registration which has to be taken and multiple licenses had to be taken, but now it is not there. There is only one registration. Under this code, if you register, that is all done. It will be done. And there will be a single license, single settlement, a single minimum forms, and the common definitions, reduction of committees, and web-based surprise inspection. Earlier, factory inspectors used to visit on a visit, so factory inspector used to visit on a physical basis. Like, they used to give a surprise visit, check the documents, and in case any document is found to be missing, they used to put penalties or give necessary recommendations, whatever it needs to be done. And there was huge bribing which was done during the inspection as well. But now that is not so. It is all web-based surprise inspection are being done. And use of technology is is recognized. That is, electronic registrations and licenses are being done. And the reduction of compliances cost and disputes. There are no multiple compliances which needs to be made, but there are only few compliances which will be undertaken. So these labor reforms will enhance ease of doing business and if the country employment creation, and there will be a lot of other aspects also. This is about the labor codes. Now let us see what our Modi ji mentioned about how the labor codes is going. I quote, he says that long due and much awaited labor reforms have been passed by the parliament. The reforms will ensure well-being of our industries, workers, and give a boost to economic growth. They are also shining examples of minimum government and maximum governance. It means to say that there is no much interference from the government and as it is now happening. But when the labor code comes into effect, there will not be much of the governance issues, or rather the governmental interference will not be there. It will be the governance meaning self-disciplined. It is you who will have to govern yourself, or it is you who will have to take care of your own laws. That is what is considered as governance. So they give they have given priority to the governance over the government interference. He also says the new labor codes irreversibly minimum wages and payment of wages. They give priority to occupational safety and of the workers. These reforms will contribute to a better working environment, which will accelerate the pace of the economic growth. And it is happening, and these labor reforms will ensure ease of doing business, as we already spoke. And he further says that by reducing the compliances and red tapeism and inspector raj, that is what I told you, right? There were factory inspectors who were coming, and they would definitely ask a lot of questions, irrelevant questions sometimes, and sometimes even which is not at all necessary. That also they were doing it. So this is where the inspector raj comes into an end. Moving ahead, the labor codes are now segregated. As I told you, though, for 29 labor laws will now be segregated into 4 labor codes. That is, the first labor code is for ensuring workers' right to minimum wages, and the second one is ensuring social security. The third one is occupational safety and health and working conditions, and for ensuring industrial relations. So these are some of the laws these are the codes which are being introduced. Now, amalgamated the first law, that is the workers' right to minimum wages. Okay, we will talk about that, and just know the codes for now. We will go into the detail. I'll reiterate the codes. For ensuring workers' right to minimum wages, that is the code, and the other one is minimum for ensuring social security, for ensuring occupational safety and working conditions, for ensuring industrial relations. So these are the codes, and those are called wage code, social security code, the OSH code, that is occupational safety, health and working condition code, and IR code, that is industrial relations code. Now, let me take you through the code of wages. The code of wages now subsumes 4 acts, that is the Payment of Wages Act of 1936, Payment of Minimum Wages Act of 1948, Payment of Bonus Act of 1965, and Equal Remuneration Act of 1976. So these are all the laws which have been clubbed together. Payment of Wages Act or the Minimum Wages Act, all these consider the provisions which are related to the wage payment, that you should pay this many wages. This is the minimum wages below which nobody can go. All those, each government prescribes what is the minimum level of payment which needs to be given for them, depending on the cost of living in that particular area. And Equal Remuneration Act is about you have to pay the equal remuneration to every party involved. It is not that female has to be paid less or male has to be paid more. No, it's not so. Equal remuneration is you should treat equally, everybody equally. That is what is called as equal remuneration. Now, this bill is passed on the August in Lok Sabha on 30th of July 2019, and it was approved by Rajya Sabha on 2nd of August 2019 also. And it was given a president's assent. That is when Shri Ramanath Kovind was the president. At that point in time, the act was promulgated, and it became effective from 8th of August 2019. However, it is still not made completely effective. Why? I'll tell you. These codes are the general principles. But what happens is the general principle, whatever you're doing, that needs some procedure to be backed up, right? That to back up, there should be certain procedures. Say, for example, we will say that you have to write internal assessment. How do you have to write internal assessment? How many pages has to be there? All those things you will not be given an instruction. Those are the things which your individual department does, right? I might give you that, yeah, my segregation of marks is 70 and 30. I might tell you that. However, what is to be done in 30 and what is to be done in 70 is what each individual department decide. So this is how the government at the center promulgates, the parliament issues law, but how it has to be implemented is left to somebody called as executive. We know the three legs of our government. One is the judiciary, the legislative, and the executive. So legislative makes the law, executive ensures that it is the laws are executed. And this is where it happens that if the board of, if the states, the respective states, the government has done its job, that yes, labor codes has to be implemented. However, the labor codes are completely backed up by the rules, how it has to be implemented. And many of the states are still in the very infancy stage where they are yet to give the laws, the draft rules they are supposed to give. They haven't even yet started those. That is how it is still pending from 2019. So this is the something which is actually expected to come soon. More than 5 years now, but people have still not done any job over it. So this is where the recent development to labor codes, what has happened is the Ministry of Labor and Employment, by way of a notification that is on 18th of December 2020, they gave immediate effect to wage code. Okay, they did give wage code immediate effect, and the board, they constituted a board called Central Advisory Board by the central government. The Central Advisory Board is now basically only talks about how the advice, it advises as to how the laws have to be driven, or laws have to be written, drafted. All those things are given in the central advisory board itself, and the board is empowered to advise matters relating to fixation of minimum remuneration and all those things are being done, and it is now being implemented, but not to a full swing, but there are implementation which is happening. So now, as I told you, inspector is now the facilitator to the compliances as well. So he is just not a person who can just point out that you didn't do this, you didn't do that, but he has to facilitate that yes, it has to facilitate, and you will have to ensure that there are compliances being done. The next is about the labor and industrial, so rather the industrial code. This is again subsumes three acts. Okay, once this code comes into picture, these three acts will now be gone. First one is the Industrial Dispute Act of 1947. And the next one is about the Trade Union Act of 1926. Look at the year 1926. It's almost a century year old, right? And the Industrial Employment Act of Standing Order of, I guess it is 1928 or so. Sorry, I missed the number there. So this again was promulgated as a law with effect from 23rd of September, 28th of September 2020. It was first approved in Lok Sabha on 22nd of September and Rajya Sabha on 23rd of September. And then it moved to President on 28th of September and then got the assent on 28th of September itself. So this is how the labor codes have constructed. Now, what do you understand by this industrial relations? It basically covers how the relationship between the employer and the manager, workforce and the management have to be maintained is what is considered in this act. Okay, and with this we will be moving on to the next few codes, that is the labor relations code and other occupational and safety hazards. Social Security Code. Okay, this is again, it is something which provides uniformity in providing social benefits. There should not be any demarcation about the providing of social benefits is what this code speaks about. So it aims to provide the social security to a wider group of employees, as the code has recognized and covered workers working in the unorganized sectors as well. Unorganized sectors meaning maybe a government industry, those who are not recognized under the law, those are called as unorganized sectors. Now, what happens is in this, different acts have been codified together. That is, different acts have been taken into consideration and this act has been done. One is the Employee Compensation Act, Employment Employees Compensation Act. This is where the compensation was all given related to the provisions related to compensation are all given here. And the next is about the Employee State Insurance Act, Employee Provident Fund and Miscellaneous Act, Employment Exchange Compulsory Notification of Vacancies Act, Maternity Benefits Act, Payment of Gratuity Act, Cine Workers and Welfare Fund Act, Building and Other Construction Workers Welfare Cess, and the Unorganized Worker Social Security Act. Don't be bothered about all these. It's too much to get it into in 2 days class. It is definitely not possible. You just have to ensure that these social security laws are for something which to ensure your social security. Only for that these laws have been promulgated, and this got the assent of the president on 28th of September 2020, and it is already been in force. However, as I told you earlier, because of the lack of drafts, rules from the different states, it is still not accepted. It is still not correct as to how it needs to be done. It is not happening. Next is about the Code of Labor Laws. That is, there is a the safety, health, and working conditions laws. These are all again which has been now again been promulgated in the year 2020 only, and it also covers about the Safety and Working Conditions Act.